Dr. Tweed, so nice to finally see you again. I trust you have many stories to tell me about your adventures deep in the heart of Africa.
Dr. Tweed beamed with sheer delight as he greeted his colleague at the door. A red bow tie attached to the top of his khaki blazer gave the fellow an eccentric yet scholarly appearance. The old man squinted through his bifocals while beckoning Robert to the table where 2 cups of hot tea had already been poured. "Robert, my good man," he began. Yes, of course. Join me for some tea and I shall regale you with a tale regarding the most curious creature this old man has ever had the pleasure of coming across in all his years gallivanting around the globe." A friendly exchange of smiles and a pleasant handshake later, the 2 men had taken their seats.
So, Doctor, tell me about this mysterious creature of yours.
Dr. Tweed's eyes lit up like a pair of blue sapphires. Ah, yes, the African Bowana spider, named after the indigenous people who reside in a section of the jungle where the creature originally hails. It's a massive arachnid. I dare say the thing is about 1/2 meter in diameter. That's not even the most interesting tidbit about it.
Good God, man!
Robert gasped.
I beg your pardon, Doctor, but I'm finding it quite hard to swallow that your interest in the tremendous girth of this spider will be eclipsed by an even more fascinating factoid.
The old man's lips curled into the slightest smirk upon hearing Robert's retort. "Oh, but eclipsed it is, my dear friend. Perhaps you'll understand once you hear this remarkable anecdote. On my 21st night exploring the Dark Continent, we found that one of our pack mules had begun to demonstrate bizarre and erratic behavior. The beast had started to crow and moan, as if it was suffering for some sort of horrible illness. Our guides had previously warned my party that the primeval forest we made camp in was rife with poisonous asps, adders, and mambas, along with other deadly serpents, so naturally, I hypothesized, it had fallen victim to the bite of one of the jungle's venomous vipers. However, upon further examination, I could find no evidence of teeth marks on the animal. No wounds, no pricks, not a single thing that would indicate it had been attacked.
Sounds like quite the conundrum, Doctor.
Indeed it was. Even more curious than that was the fact that, though I found the animal's behaviour to be somewhat unnerving, many of our party's guides appeared to be downright terrified. At the sight of the mule's predicament, a few of them even ran from our campsite and into the darkness of the untamed jungle by themselves! The fools! I loaded my rifle in order to put the creature out of its misery, as it was now writhing on the ground and seemed to be suffering quite considerably, but before I had the chance to pull the trigger, my eyes witnessed a truly incredible sight.
No, Doctor. You aren't about to say...
Oh, but I am! Out of this animal's mouth crawled the Bowana spider. Dr. Tweed took a sip of tea. Robert could tell by the old man's reaction that it was still a bit too hot to drink. Like I said before, it was quite colossal. Now, while I haven't quite figured out how the giant thing was able to contort its body enough to crawl its way out of the beast's jowls, I do have a theory about what it was doing there in the first place. Tweed paused a moment for dramatic effect, reveling in the mystery of his account.
Well, out with it then. I must say, good Doctor, I'm enthralled by this story of yours. You must tell me what happened next.
As it turns out, this particular species of arachnid has become quite feared by the natives, hence the reason why some of my party's guides had decided to take their chances out amongst the ferocious wildlife and poisonous flora of the jungle instead of staying at camp once they realized what was behind all the ruckus. The remaining guides insisted that I shoot the spider, but you know me, Robert. I'm a man of science. What kind of academician would I be if I ended the life of such a spectacular specimen? An arthropod of such astonishing peculiarity must be studied alive. Robert interjected once more.
But, Doctor, you still haven't explained to me what it was doing inside the mule's mouth.
Have patience, my good man. All will be revealed in time. You see, the natives believed the spider to be some sort of soul-sucking demon, one that feasts upon the very life force of a man, bleeding him dry until he becomes nothing but a useless and withered husk. Obviously, any educated bloke, like myself, would dismiss such silly notions as nothing but foolish superstitions. But I do believe these primitive myths were onto something. Nevertheless, there is always scientific explanation for these things. From my brief encounter with the creature, I have gathered that the 8-legged Goliath has evolved the most extraordinary of survival tactics. It appears that the spider entered the pack mule through its oral cavity, and from there it may have in some way attached itself to the beast's nervous system, granting it full access to the mule's movements and vocal patterns, essentially rendering the animal a useless puppet. What I'm saying, Robert, is that the creature was wearing our unfortunate ungulate like a hat on Sunday, and all of us were none the wiser. I have since postulated that the arachnid itself made itself at home in the body of its hoofed host, feeding off its cerebral spinal fluid just long enough for it to plant a revolting sack of eggs. Robert's eyes widened with interest.
What an intriguing, yet horrifying creature, Doctor. Ha! Perhaps the guides who fled into the night weren't as foolish as you say. Could you imagine what would happen if a thing like that were on the loose here in England? People would be in quite the panic.
He and the old man shared a chuckle. The doctor took another sip of his tea. Could I imagine, Robert? I dare say it already has. Dr. Tweed's head suddenly cocked back in a violent manner. Terrible gagging noises emanated from his throat as blood began trickling from his eyes, ears, and nose. 8 long, spindly legs emerged from his mouth.